If doctors strike will down their tools in January at the expiry of their issued strike notice, and the teachers also proceed on the said strike that they have also issued a notice, then the tally of industrial action since William Ruto came into power will be 3. And this is happening at a time where we have seen Cotu boss Francis Atwoli becoming so bossy and cozy with the most powerful CEO of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto. This is the Bold Analysis, and my name is Kevin Oduor. Today, in this episode, I want us to relook former Laikipia Governor Nderitu Murithi's reminder to President Ruto over what looks as populism at the expense of dumping a health charter that was signed during the election campaign. If you're watching this video for the first time, I want to humbly request you to subscribe to our channel, and thank you very much for those who've supported us throughout the year. This channel picked up, I think, on 16th January this year. So it'll be clocking 1 year by 16th of January. And I'm just so glad that we've experienced that exponential growth in this channel. We have really done a lot. I do look back and say, God indeed has been with us. Guys, there is this article on Nderitu Murithi telling the president that you either choose to go with the data or tumble and cripple health sector with populism. I remember Nderitu Murithi was Raila Odinga's campaign, I think, board, the chairman of Raila Odinga's campaign board, and also one of the governors from Mount Kenya, who is an economist by profession, a man that had worked in World Bank and other well-known organizations before heading back to go and lead the beautiful county of Laikipia. And this is an article that was published by The Nation. I have looked at that article. He opens up a very critical, a big call to all the stakeholders in the health sector that they don't need to wait, and they either choose to go with the populism or use data. Sometimes, and I want to make this very interesting take here. It's politicians will not go with data because you cannot explain data to the population. Some other guy says data is normally destructive or disastrous. When you hear the data, you just think it's about the figures. When I interviewed Boni Khalwale told me one thing, that the politicians, or rather people that are in offices or in the positions of power, normally prefer to have aesthetics. That hospital launched and built by XYZ, that dormitory launched and built by XYZ, but they tend not to look at the nitty-gritties. The reason why that is because they want the people to see that a big hospital has been built, but they don't go to the people and tell them that in that hospital you'll find drugs 24/7, you'll have doctors 24/7, and you'll be served and you'll not have negligence. So he's talking, and Nderitu Murithi is telling the president that forget about the populism. I know that there is that which was in the charter with the doctors that was signed. It borders, it touched on remuneration, capacity building of the medical folks, and welfare and promotions. So that has been there, but we need to say that the political class, or rather the leadership, has never paid attention to that, but they've always paid attention to what the population can see. Kila mtu akipita ataona hiyo commissioned by Governor XYZ and so on and so forth. So that has been a factor in our health sector. I'll show you before I finish. I'll tell you a very interesting feature I was watching yesterday in BBC. I watched it last night, and I'll share a glimpse of that feature with you. Now, according to a research that was conducted, and that's what Nderitu Murithi was referring to, a research that was conducted by Ministry of Health, collaboration Ministry of Health, World Bank, I think. Yes, I need to get it for you. Yes. It was conducted by Ministry of Health and World Bank, and they were trying to look at indicators of service delivery. It's called SDIR, is Service Delivery Indicators Report. Things that show that services have been delivered to the people. Before we look at what the former governor is talking about, I just want to challenge those who are even abroad, those who are in foreign countries, not foreign countries, those who are in UK, US, and other countries. What is, just share with us a glimpse of how exactly is your health system be in that country? How is that? In terms of how it is financed, the insurance, and also talk to us about how respective governments have invested or is funding the public health, or how public health is being funded. I can't remember the country, but I was told there is a country where there is a bit of what you pay. So where ukienda unatibiwa tu. I don't know which one. But I want to share. I'll look at the comment section to see what you guys are saying. This report is saying a couple of few things that indicate that as an indicator of service delivery. The indicators were on provider effort. In terms of, if you want to know that services have been delivered, and that's what Nderitu is saying, that the report tracks on absentee rate. The question is this: is the nurse, clinical officer, or the doctor at work? And can I tell you, it was a shocking data that in areas, counties like I think Kilifi, yes, in Kilifi, Lamu, Murang'a, even Homa Bay and Turkana, West Pokot, the worst performing clinical officers with 78% sometimes absent. Absenteeism rate. So what he's saying is this, that don't focus and don't over-focus on populism. Go for the nitty-gritties. Are even those doctors in those hospitals? By the way, tell us, what is your experience? Ushaenda hospitali ukakosa? When my first one was going to be, it was during COVID. I remember we really had to spend a lot because we had to move from Nenda Palo. And by that time, there was doctor's strike, by the way. I remember. It was hectic. So, guys, that's just a glimpse of it. That's number one indicator of whether the doctor is in that station. Number two is provider competence. In terms of nurse, doctor, the medical folk that is there, the competence, can it cover diagnostic accuracy, adherence? The person, is he adhering to the clinical guidelines and management of maternal and neonatal complications? Is it adherence to that? That was talking in terms of competence. The other last aspect, which is very close to my heart, is availability of inputs such as drugs, medical equipment, and infrastructure. Now, let me tell you, of those three indicators, the only one that the political folk normally look at is that one of infrastructure. Not even the equipment. Whether that building you have put there as an hospital, even a microscope, that's the only one I remember because I interacted with it when I was in high school. I did biology. Whether it even have a simple microscope. Does it have drugs? Now that one is the most. I sometimes it's very piece off when you go, then you find out that, look here, the person that you are going to end up buying, it was supposed to be this hospital, but someone masqueraded and found his way out, and there's just a lot of dramas in that sector. So Nderitu Murithi is talking about those three, that instead of populism, even as the doctors are downing their tools, are threatening to down their tools, if you want to fix the mess, you either choose by picking the data, what the data is showing. The data is showing that the three, one, absenteeism is hurting health services across the country. It's hurting. I don't know. What is your take? Let me give you. I was watching a feature. It was done by a BBC journalist, and it was talking of child trafficking here in Nairobi. I was shocked to see, and okay, the feature is out there, that in one of the hospitals, why am I even saying one of the hospitals? In Mama Lucy, where was that case that was being done, that there was a child trafficking incident. Now, if you watch that feature, you'll be shocked that from Malim Toto Anatoka, how the guy in it is selling the child. The child was being trafficked out at 300,000 shillings. Can I shock you? The buyer, because the BBC journalist had just stage managed, choreographed a buyer. The buyer, who was supposed to pay 300,000, paid the 300,000. Look here, and that's the cost of journalism. Now, no details about him. No signing anywhere. In fact, I looked at the feature and I was so shocked that anabeba mtoto, then it's just a normal clearance. Anakuwa cleared, and they're saying that anapelekwa some children's home somewhere. So there is a vehicle waiting outside, inachukua mtoto, that inapeleka children's home, and from there, the deal is done. No, anatoka na watoto watatu. Out of these three, one is being sold, the other two is being taken to children's home. So when I watched that feature, something came out to my mind that one of the biggest challenges in the health sector is track and trace. Track and trace. You can't trace that mtoto anatoka tu, yani is just like a pocket change. Ni kama gonna kubai, and that's the deep state. By then, that feature was done back in 2020. You can go and check it up. And I remember, and it's not one, there was also another one in Nairobi. So, you have something, you have a problem. So, it really blew my mind in terms of what's happening. So, guys, I want to narrow down this because Nderitu Murithi was saying that all those who are charged with decision making on resolving disputes in health sector human resources, from labor commissioner, labor courts, cabinet secretaries to labor and health, county executive committee members for health, let them be informed with data, not populism. The biggest challenge, I want to narrow down to these three, just add on a voice and say that the devolved functions are struggling. President Ruto, the devolved functions are struggling, and however much now it's a bit easier because some counties have got it right, some counties are still struggling. You need to give some very good accolades to Makueni. They really did well in health. I think that was maternal health. Some counties are struggling. And so even if it is a catastrophe, it is not a nationwide thing. Unlike in the past where doctors wakienda strike, it's kila mahali. So now you can find Kiambu has a problem, but the neighboring county of Murang'a is working. So people will rush to Murang'a and get health services, even though it brings the issues of congestion. However, the devolved functions are still hurting the health sector. I don't know what president should do. And just like education largely still in the national government, if asked, I think health should be taken back to the national government, because with the counties, the financing is becoming an issue. You are giving them 15% of the GDP. If you look at the CIDP, they're supposed to balance between, not CIDP, if you look at the budget they have, when they take almost 60% to wages, very bloated. In a county there is another government there, very bloated wage bill. Then what remains is bit of some small percentage for development, and they're also supposed to serve the rest. It's becoming a problem. As we talk, I think the chair of COG, Anwe Guru, was talking about there is a big problem now in terms of the leasing of the medical equipment that had been done, renewal of those lease agreements. So they're still struggling with it. But number two, health financing burden. And that is why I did an analysis here about NHIF pledge. We promised NHIF and it's no longer, it's not anywhere. You're not seeing it anywhere. But we need to look at health financing because that's where there is a lot of money that is going into it. Government is more, I think, I see an over independence on donors, and this could be seen during COVID. There's a lot of money, the COVID billionaire thing, the cancer thing. There's a lot of donor fund coming in, streaming in here. But what we need to know, and I think we did, the stakeholders need to make a very good distinction, that the donor fund covers more of preventive measures. And this is mostly on behavior change interventions, hygiene, behavior change interventions and hygiene, and bit of a community model approach to talk about, or rather to handle these curative measures on health. So government is doing more of curative. As NGOs, their fund mostly goes to preventive. Like if you look at the intervention of giving nets, that's ya kufunza wa mama, waende antenatal, and they rarely do the subsidy. So government to do help, and this is my final play. While you can withdraw subsidy on maize, you can even withdraw subsidy on education, on school fees. But I think to balance the equilibrium, you should reciprocate by upscaling health subsidy. Look here, a healthy nation will easily fund this nation. If people are healthy and they're spending less on medicine and then they're spending time kwenda hospitali kukosa dawa, kwenda kubai nje nini, the ring of capitalism in health can really make that sector survive if it's actually uprooted and removed from that system. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my take. But I also believe we should invest. Let's look at what other people are doing, what other people are getting right. We shall be reading here, and don't worry, some of these people in government, they watch our analysis and they also cover what you guys are saying. That's my take.